Hey, welcome to the 17 Law Studio. And I guess technically, when they say home is where the heart is, the 17 Law Studio is where I am. And today I'm in a different location. The sound's not the best, but hey, we're going to have fun today, right? Well, today I'd like to discuss. I think I've probably received no less than 100 people asking about finances. And when I look at finances, why it's such a big deal in a family. Oh my gosh. It affects everybody, the stress level. And oftentimes the finances have to do with both parents working two jobs just to keep up and. So it's really a big deal. So today I would just like to answer some questions about finances that couples have asked because there's a lot of stress out there. And I'd like to start off with this. I've never yet, I'm sure it's going to happen eventually, where someone's in a financial bind and they had some sort of financial plan. Usually it doesn't happen, and most people don't have a financial plan. And even if you have plenty of money, it's good to have a financial plan because you're probably still spending money where you wish you hadn't. So even if you had plenty of money, and at the end of the year you said, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe I spent $7,000 on shoes." That's crazy. So you might would have made different decisions, but you might have wished you had spent 10,000. But at least you would have known how much you have spent on your shoes or whatever the case may be. Most of the time, when I'm with people, it's out to eat. That's where they spend an awful lot of money. Hey, I'm gonna go spend $60 when we could have eaten dinner for 20 or 25. Doesn't sound like a lot. But if you do that a couple of times a week, a couple $100 a month, $2,400 a year. When I sit down with a couple, and if I would have said, "Hey, I bet you would love to have $2,400 right now, wouldn't you?" Well, that's the difference in eating out and not. So that's it. That's an example. So one of my questions not one, a ton of questions that I got were all around how do I get out of credit card debt? Well, the best way I know to get out of credit card debt or to deal with the best way I know to deal with credit card debt is not to have any. Back to the financial plan. Okay, Russ, you live in La La Land. No, I really don't. Right out of college, man, they started sending me these little acceptance things in the mail, and I thought it was like free money. So, man, I was buying stuff. I didn't care. And then I couldn't believe it. They said, "Russ, you're going to have to pay this back eventually." And I thought, oh my goodness. And then eventually I did. It took forever to pay back, and it really wasn't that much money, but interest and all that. And plus, I was paying it back, but I still had the same mindset that borrowing money wasn't that big a deal. But I did get it paid back. So it's like I said, it's been a while since I've done that. Really don't carry any credit card debt now. Dave Ramsey has a really good idea, but he always says, "Hey, don't use your credit card, only use a debit card and cash." Well, does that work for everybody? No. Does it work for most people? Probably so. Uh, but I can tell you, if as much as I travel, if I only had a debit card, I would have been in trouble because of rental cars and how many, I can't tell you how many times I've been somewhere and I get a fraud alert on my credit card and there I am stuck. So I have to have a credit card. I'm not suggesting you get a credit card. If you can't control your spending, don't get a credit card. But ultimately, you're going to have to get those things paid off. And the best way I know to deal with credit cards is a little different than the Dave Ramsey. He'll tell you pay off the littlest one first. Let's say you owe 300 on one, 1,000 on the next, 2,000 on the other. Well, pay off the 300, and then all the money you're paying toward the 300, pay it toward the 1,000, and all the money you're paying for the 300 and 1,000, pay it toward the 2,000. And I agree with that. I would do it that way. Before you get to that point, though, it's a whole lifestyle change. You're going to have to start saying no to some things. And a lot of people I see on credit card, a couple ways. I see this a lot. I see where they charged some. I mean, not charged. They had some medical bills, not necessarily life debilitating, but with today's insurance, it's so terrible for most people. The deductibles are high. They go to the hospital for a day or whatever, and or the ER, and then all of a sudden you owe $2,000, and then the collector from the system calls and says, "Hey, you need to pay us now, or you're going to go. We're going to put you in front of a firing squad." Okay, I know that's an exaggeration. But they'll convince them, hey, just put this on a credit card and we'll give you a 5% discount or something like that. No, 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 no. Like the most medical places, you can make payments to them. I'm for paying the medical. You know, God bless the medical community, right? I'm very thankful for them. When it comes to putting my family in a bind and possibly hurting my credit, no, I'm going to pay the hospital, but I'm going to make payments to the hospital or whatever clinic it is. I'm not going to, I'd rather do that than pay 20 whatever percent on my credit card. So that's one of the things that why I see people getting credit card debt. The other way I see people getting credit card debt, which you don't have to do, is that is they can't say no. Oh no, we've got to go on this Carnival cruise. Oh, we've got to go to Disney, or we got to go to the beach, and we don't have any money, but we owe it to the kids. We're making memories. No, that's a your kids. You can have memories that's not that expensive. So people think, oh, they said, oh, I got this credit card debt. It's like I was walking through the woods and the poison ivy got on me. It's like, oh, I couldn't help it. I couldn't help it. It was all of a sudden it's all over. Now that's not how credit cards work. The way you get in credit card debt is you're saying yes to, oh, I'm gonna swipe the card or put the chip in the terminal. I'm gonna type it in online. I'm gonna Apple Pay or whatever. That's how you get in credit card debt. I haven't met. I'm sure it's happened. I know it's happened, but I haven't seen anybody getting credit card debt with a gun held to their head. It hasn't happened. Now, if it means medicine for my child or my kids can't eat, yeah, those things happen. But I have seen that. But I don't see that as much as you would think. It's mostly the lack of discipline and the ego and the pride because the neighbors and the friends, they all have the really cool stuff. They have all the really cool things going on in their life. They have oh, we're going to the beach. Aren't you going to the beach? You know, I know families that didn't go to the beach. You know what they did? They still had a great time, made memories. I know families who their kids didn't have the best car. I know families who said no to going out to eat all the time. And everybody else was going out to eat 2, 3, 4 nights a week with their friends and all that. And I know families that said, you know what, we're not going to do that. You know, I actually know wealthy people who say no to going out to eat too. So I know it's possible. And so the best way to deal with credit card debt, if you're in it, is don't increase it. Start saying no to some things. You don't have a right, or you're not entitled to. Oh, I get to go out to eat. I get to do all these sort of things. No, it's you're only entitled and limited by your income and your ability to pay for this stuff. So when I'm talking about credit card, most people say, how do I get out of debt? Well, I first want to talk about why you got in debt. Stop getting in debt. Stop increasing it. And then once you've stopped and you come up with a plan, then start smallest ones first, the 300, the 1,000, the 2,000, the 4,000, or whatever it is that you have. And generally that's all your debt anyway. Just always do it that way. So that's how I would deal with credit card debt. Now, some people ask, should I cut up my cards? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I would do that in a heartbeat. Now, I don't know about your job. Maybe you have to travel and put money on your credit card to airfare and all that, and then you get reimbursed down the road or something like that. And you may have to have a credit card. And I know some people who can't handle that. They'll put it on that credit card, and then when they get paid on their paycheck, they don't pay off the credit card. They use that money for something else. You're going to have to figure. That's because they don't have a financial plan. They haven't decided what they're going to do with their money before they make it. So that's big. And I know people who are making $50,000, $60,000 a year who have a nice house, they drive decent cars, they have kids, and they're doing okay. I know people who are making 6 digits who are about to lose everything. It's possible to save money. Now, maybe you've already made a stupid enough decision. Maybe you spent $100,000 on a degree that's not going to make you any money. I get that. You got to work around that, but you got to come up with a financial plan. The other thing, anyway, that's the big part about the credit cards. When all the questions come in, how do I get out of credit card debt? There's no pixel dust I can sprinkle over it. You're really going to have to take the smallest one and going up. Now, one thing that you can do, I know this will just shock some people and it'll just send people I mean, they'll just palpitate. They'll have anxiety attacks. And some people just can't handle it. And I don't know if I should share it with you, but I'm gonna try. They they get another job. Yeah. What if you worked an extra night or two a week and did something you hated? Who cares? But at the end of the year, you knocked out some credit cards and you didn't have that stress on you. But I'll miss little Bobby's t-ball game, or I'm gonna miss. Yeah. But there's a lot of stress, a lot of crazy going on by being so far in debt. So you want to. The other thing, I've this is an income thing, not just about the credit cards, but it's all related. And I've seen where it's probably more men that I've seen. I'm not saying it is that way. I'm just saying that's what I've seen. Is where the men have a job that doesn't pay anything, and like I know someone who was in a job, didn't pay a ton, wasn't terrible. They were doing okay, but he didn't want his wife to have to work. So, but he loved where he was and all that sort of stuff. But you know what he did? He said, I love what I do, but I just can't make a living. I don't want my wife to work. It's fine if you want your wife to work. It doesn't matter to me. But in this case, he didn't. And he wanted to have, to be able to pay off his house sooner. He wanted to be able to do things quicker financially. He wanted to actually save money. And if the washer went out, he didn't want to sweat it. If the car broke down, he didn't want to panic. So he got out of what he planned on doing and actually got a better job, making a whole lot more money. And that, in my opinion, is admirable. Now, if you want to keep a job and keep everybody poor in your family, because hey, that's what I want to do. Whatever it is whatever the low-paying job that you have, that's your call. But you're putting a lot of stress on your family. I'm not saying you have to do anything different. I'm just letting you know. Maybe you're somebody who's going to inherit a ton of money one day and it doesn't matter. I don't know. But just in general, I think a lot of people don't have a spending problem. A lot of people have an income problem. And it's usually one or the other when I talk with families. It's either income problem or a spending problem. And if more times than not, I always see spending problems no matter what it is. And you can work through those. So I hope that helps on the credit cards, on the financial side of it. Start saying no. You don't have to eat out all the time. Do the math. I like to multiply everything times 12. That's what I like to do. So, for example, hey, you're going to go buy a four-wheeler, and it's $200 a month. I don't say $200 a month. It's $2,400 a year. Or we're going to go do this, and it's $100 a month. No. Say $1,200. It costs $1,200 to do this. Or this new car is only $600 a month. No, it's $7,200 a year. Can you do $7,200? What could you do with $7,200 a year, or $10,000 a year, whatever it is you're spending money on? And you can also do the math. We did this one time several years ago. Every night that we decided not to go out to eat, I put $20 in a jar because we're going out to eat all the time, and it was 100% my fault. My wife taught school. By the time we got home, we were busy. I don't feel like, I'm not one of those guys that's like, we both work. You got to come home and cook and clean, and I get to sit around and reading the newspaper. Not that there is a newspaper, but sit around and watch videos and a podcast and somebody feed me grapes while the kids go mow the yard and do the laundry and paint the house. I'm not one of those guys. I feel just as responsible to get dinner done and all that. And because of that, that's how I'm just as tired as you are. I'm not going to say, and I'm a terrible cook. And if I cook, it's going to be grilled cheese sandwiches or breakfast for dinner every night. It's not going to be varied from that. So we would go out to eat, and then I did the math one time. Like, oh my gosh, this is a lot of money. So every time we decided not to go out to eat, we decided to get together. All right, you cook this, we'll do it together. I'll do the dishes. I'll take care of the kids, get them in the bath before, and all that sort of stuff. And then before you know it, man, we had $1,000+ in this little jar. I thought, oh my gosh, this is the coolest thing ever. So when you think about going out to eat, what's $20? What's $15? What's $33? Well, it's a lot. And a lot of those places where you go is not healthy anyway. So I hope that helps on the credit card. This is overall financial video. This is to help you overall financially, and I'm touching on everything because so they usually people ask about the credit cards, but it's usually just one small small example of the bigger picture of what's going on in the family. That's why I like all this. Now, I had this time of year, I get a lot of people say, well, what do you think about buying a camper? What do you think about buying a boat? What do you think about buying whatever, a home? How I could buy a cabin and then I could rent it out and then I could get it paid for, whatever the case may be. I'm not saying any of those are bad if you can afford it. And this is honestly how I feel about a boat. This is how I feel about a camper, an RV, anything that you buy. If you whatever money it takes, if you could put it in that RV and it burned to the ground, or somebody steals it, I'm not talking insurance, and they said, and it really doesn't affect you financially at all. I mean, you're like, somebody stole the boat. Hey, you want to go Chick-fil-A? Then if you can do that, then you can afford a boat or RV or camper, trailer, whatever it is that you're buying. But if you're going to make payments on it and somebody's got to get a separate job and you really can't afford it, and the reason you're going to get the boat and the RV camper or whatever is, we're going to make memories. This is going to change our whole life. We're going to stop eating out as much and we're going to pay the. Let me tell you, if you start having the conversation, if we stop eating so we can buy something, that should be a red flag. Terrible idea. One of you should just slap the other. No, don't do that. One of you just kind of wake up and go, oh, wait. We're talking about stop eating in order to buy something that we're only going to use 3, 4, 5, 6 times a year. Another thing, let's say you decide to buy a boat. I've had boats growing up, or our kids have grown up. We've had a boat. We could afford it at the time. But every time you go to the boat, nowadays, you can't get on the water for less than a couple $100 a day, depending on how many you are. The time you tow your boat to the lake or wherever, river or wherever you're going, the gas there. If you put your boat in the water, it's expensive driving a boat around. They do not get great gas mileage, and you have insurance on all that. And whoever you invite, nobody brings food and drinks and all that. You're like, we're going to be different. But overall, you're going to supply the majority of it. You're going to supply the gas. And then if you decide to get gas at a marina on the lake, it's usually double what it is everywhere else in society. Kind of like going to the airport where the bottled water is 3 times what it is at Walmart. So it's expensive. And if you stop at a marina and have lunch there, it's not like going to McDonald's where everything's cheap. No, it's like going to a hotel or an airport. Again, everything's super expensive. So just the cheapest part about a boat is the boat. Just keep that in mind when you're considering doing anything. It's just not worth. Now, for example, I would like a pontoon boat right now. I really would. I went out there and looked up. Man, I looked at some recently at a boat show. Oh my gosh, I cannot believe how expensive they are. Can I afford one? Probably. Do I want one? Yeah, I do, but I'm not going to use it that much. It makes no sense whatsoever. So what am I going to do? I actually have one rented next weekend. Our family can get out on a pontoon boat. So we're going to spend this much. Man, I could do that 2 or 3 weekends a year for the next 10 years and I'm still come out ahead. And you know what's really cool about that? If I decide not to go next weekend, it doesn't cost anything. And what's really cool is I drive up there, I walk out and they say, hey, Mr. Rogers, your keys in your boat and it's full of gas. Put your stuff on, you leave. You don't have to tow it back home. You know, more gas for that. There's different ways you can have memories and still enjoy something like that. Just like a camper. I've got to have a camper. I got to have a camper. Now, we actually have a travel trailer. Camper we pull behind my Tundra. I like to say Tundra. Just don't want to assume it's just any old truck pulling my camper, our camper. But we can afford it, and we enjoy going, and we actually go. We so enjoy it. In fact, I might do a video. A couple of weeks we're going to be at a campground in North Carolina, and I might do a video there. We just love camping. We can afford it, but my Tundra gets pretty dang good gas. It's the new body style. It gets really good gas mileage unless it's pulling a camper. Nothing gets good gas mileage pulling a camper. It sucks the gas. We have insurance on it, but again, we can afford it. But if you want to try camping, what I've shared this with many, many people, rent a camper. Don't go in debt 50, 60, 70, $80,000 for something. I had a guy go in debt for $90,000 for a pontoon boat, and it really wasn't that fancy. Those are really expensive now. But rent one and take it for a long weekend and just see if you like it. See if you like towing it. And I've had people say, "Well, we want to get a camper, and the payments are only $350 a month." And guess what? Guess what they have to do to get the camper? Guess what? Yeah, they have to get a truck, and guess what? Yeah, that's $700, so there's $1,200 a month. And then those same people say, "Well, if we stop eating out," and there you go. We're going to stop eating in order to have a camper that's going to sit out there beside the house at least 11 and a half months out of the year, 11 plus months out of the year. It's going to sit there because you're going to have to work to pay for it. And every vacation you take can't be camping because you're going to have other things going on. But it's just rent a camper. Rent a camper first. And then if you love it and can afford it, oh my God, even if you can afford it super easy, I still would say, hey, rent one, borrow one. Some campgrounds you can rent campers. Go hang out in one for a weekend. Say, honey, we love this, or gosh, we hate it. Just to give you an idea. Now, we've talked about credit cards. We talked about should we buy these big toys this time of year. I really get a lot of that. And then it goes on to when we talk about the big things. Is Russ, what do you think about buying your 16-year-old a car? I say I'm all for it. Get them a car, a nice, safe car. I always thought for my daughters, if they made it, I would want a 4-cylinder Suburban. something huge and really slow. Obviously, that's not a possibility. So I always want to get them the nicest possible, the safest possible car I could get. I didn't want them driving around in something that truly, if they're in an accident, I'd really say, man, I wish I hadn't done that. So I would like that. But from a financial standpoint, what I recommend if you and your wife are working and you have to borrow money to make payments on your 16-year-old to get them like a $20,000, $30,000 car, heck no, I would not do that. And I would want I wouldn't, there's no way I'm going to ask my wife to work 20 hours a week so my 16-year-old can drive a car. And my insurance agent buddy says that for 16-year-olds, they pay out at that time when I asked him, it's been 3, 4, 5 years since I've asked him, but he said they pay out like 120% of every dollar they take in for a 16-year-old. So you're going to go in debt for a car that they're going to bump into something. Yeah, they're going to hit something. They're going to back into something. Almost guaranteed. Every insurance agent in the world will tell you that. So a bad idea. It's just not worth it. And they're not going to appreciate a $20,000, $30,000 car anymore than they would a $5,000, $6,000 car. Now, would I want my kid to participate in it? Yeah, if at all humanly possible. Our oldest daughter didn't, but my mother-in-law passed away, and my father-in-law said she had this big old boat of a car, big old Cadillac, and he said, you know what? She turned 16. I want her to have that car. And of course, it was so big. She was going to plow down every mailbox. Anybody would at 16. And so we swapped it out for a little bit smaller car. And then, but moving right along, my fourth son, he saved for a long time. And when he turned 16, he was ready to contribute. He contributed quite a bit, and he got a pretty nice vehicle. And to be fair, by the time we got to the fourth child, everyone else, we could afford a little more. And then he got a little bit nicer vehicle, but it's a safe vehicle. We got the nicest vehicle for every child that we could afford at that time without putting our family in a bind financially. That's what I suggest you do. I would never put myself, I don't care if the kid jumps up and down and screams and throws a fit. Well, no, I do care. In fact, if they do that, they are not responsible enough. They're not mature enough to even have a car. If they acted like that, my kids never did, but I've seen kids that do that. And if they were mine, I would say, you don't even get a car until you can act mature enough to handle the responsibility of driving a car. But those are my thoughts on a car. Now, occasionally I run into people and they say, okay, I need a car for my 16-year-old. I have no money. They have to get a car. I go this way. I'm a single mom, single dad, whatever. I have to get them a car. I have to go in debt for a car. Okay, I get that. So, yeah, if you have to go, Some people say you should never go in debt for a car. Well, that's not possible for most families. I'm just saying don't go in debt for something you can't afford. That would be my thing. And if you say I can afford $100,000 car, then I'd say, and that's all you can afford in your life. No, 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 no. We're not gonna pay $2,000 or $3,000 a month for a car payment. And if you're a gazillionaire, then just pay cash for your $100,000 car. Don't worry. Don't make the payments. So let's. I've had this before where a single parent had to have a car because the kid had to get to school, had to get to band practice, had to do all these things, didn't have any money at all, and so what did they do? They went and got the cheapest car they could. Maybe it was $100, $200 a month that they could pay. Go down to the local bank, credit union, whatever, and then just and pay for it as quickly as possible, and get the kid to help offset that as well. So I hope this helps on the finances. I don't like to drag these videos on out too far, bore you to tears. I hope this is helpful. Hope you like the new format. Not sure the sound is the best ever doing it this way, so I may have to work on that. But the main thing is the information. And I hope this helps. And again, it's Russ at the 17 Law Studio, and today the studio's in a different location, right? And just let me know. So keep those questions coming. Russ at the 17laws.com. Follow me on every place you possibly can find. Forward these videos to everybody you can find because I really want this information out. I really want to help families.